All right. Would you like to start us off, Jack?
Yep. So, welcome everyone to our March Tunnel Vision seminar. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the UCA Scholarship Program and all the fun conferences we have on offer. But first, before we jump into that, we're just going to do a quick overview of UCA and what our organization does. Then we're going to jump into RETC, which is our upcoming conference and the scholarships associated with that conference. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the upcoming events hosted by the Young Members Committee of UCA. Tori, do you want me to roll through the general slides or?
I can help roll through them and then give you the floor back for the scholarship elements if you're cool with that.
Sounds good.
All right. As Jack said, we are a part of the Underground Construction Association, or the UCA. The greater organization's mission is to promote the responsible development and use of underground space, and to also develop public awareness of underground space as a resource. And this is typically completed through the following actions: through our technical resources that we provide, professional development opportunities, as well as networking opportunities. Next slide. And from the student standpoint, there's a variety of opportunities for you to volunteer and participate in. And those include the technical working groups that the UCA has developed. These were inspired by the technical working groups that are championed by the International Tunneling Association, or the ITA. And in these working groups, they revolve around research, underground and environment, seismic effects, and there's many more. There's around 22 working groups for folks to get involved in, and I think many of them are always looking for additional volunteer support. There are also special interest and outreach groups, such as the Women in Tunneling, the UCA Young Members Committee, which Jack and I support, as well as the Down for That committee. So if after this presentation today, you're interested in participating or looking to figure out how you can participate further, feel free to reach out and we can connect you with some of these special interest and outreach groups. And just a final note on the UCA Young Member Committee structure. My name is Tori Encapera. I'm the current chair. I'm a geotechnical tunnel engineer with Black & Veatch. These are some of the other individuals who are on our committee. We have Lane Boyd, our co-chair, Rajat Gungrade, our past chair. Our secretary is Alex Warren. Kieran Pugh is our treasurer, and Emma Moore is our media coordinator. And then coordinators of our subgroups, we have Luisa Villa, who oversees and liaises with the ITA, and our scholarship coordinator, Jack Lawrence.
All right, I can take it from here. So UCA offers 4 conferences, but 2 of them are offered on a biennial basis, so they alternate. This year, we're hosting the RETC is overseen by a separate committee, but it's affiliated with UCA, just to clear that up. This year, RETC is being hosted. When that conference is not being hosted, it alternates with the North American Tunneling Conference, so that will be in 2026. UCA also hosts 2 other conferences. One is called the Cutting Edge Conference that happens every November, and that covers cutting edge technologies in tunneling. And then we also have the George Fox Conference in January. That's a one-day short conference focused really on tunneling in the Northeast, sometimes also nationally. Just a quick note, we offer scholarships for all of these conferences except George Fox. If you're interested in attending George Fox, there is a student discount available for registration. Now we're going to talk about the RETC scholarship program specifically. So this year we're offering 3 different types of scholarships. We have the attendance scholarship, and there's kind of a lower tier and there's a higher tier. So at the lower tier, you're going to get full conference registration paid for. You're going to get tickets to social events at the conference. And then for all your hotel, travel, miscellaneous expenses, you get $1,000 to cover all of that. The next higher tier up, you're going to get everything covered. from the conference registration perspective, but your hotel expenses are also going to be covered. For travel, you're going to get up to $600. And then for any miscellaneous expenses, you're going to get $200. And then our highest tier of scholarship is the academic. You get everything I just mentioned, and then you also could get up to $5,000 in funding for your academic expenses. Just a quick note, we're in the process of merging all of these applications into just one document. At the moment, though, we do have a separate attendance and academic application. So if you're interested in both of those scholarships, you need to apply separately. You can only win one per conference. Also, just a quick note, the academic scholarship requires slightly more information. We do require a letter of recommendation, whereas for the attendance, we only require just reference contact information. So our selection timeline, we have launched the application back in February. Our deadline is in about 2 weeks on March 29th. We'll let you know if you were selected by April 15th. We're going to have made decisions by April 15th, just a quick correction there, and we'll let you know what the outcome was on April 20th. Then you have about 6 weeks to book your flights, and the conference will be on June 8th. So we've been running this scholarship program for a while, and we just want to give some general application tips on how you can craft a really strong application. We're expecting maybe a surge in applications this year, so it might be a little bit more competitive than usual. The first thing we'd like to talk about is just the grade point average section. In previous years, there's been some discrepancies, so maybe some people might submit an old transcript, or maybe their GPA didn't match up with what was on their document. This year, we're going to be a little bit more strict about it, so whatever numbers you put in the boxes you see on the left, those need to match exactly what's on your transcript, and it also needs to be the most recent transcript. Also, a quick note, if your GPA, like if you went to a foreign institution for undergrad, your GPA needs to be converted to a 4.0 scale. Very important. We have instructions on how to do that on the application. Regarding transcripts and resumes, again, most recent version, international transcripts must be translated, but if you're attending grad school in the US, that most likely isn't an issue because you would have needed to submit that anyways for your application to grad school. But we do request that. For resumes, this has been a longstanding policy, but please make sure that your resume is one page only. Keep it brief, and then embellishment is also easy to identify, so please don't exaggerate any of your roles or anything like that. Now for the supplemental questions, if you've applied in the past, you'll notice that our essays are a little bit different this year. This year we have 4 essays, they're 250 words each. And what we're really looking for is just your genuine passion for tunneling and underground construction. Now, for this first bullet point, I don't want anyone to get alarmed. We absolutely welcome applicants from trenchless, mining, or general geotech backgrounds. And we do want you to talk about your experience in your essay questions. But please also keep in mind that this is like a tunneling conference. So we do want to hear specifically about your tunneling aspirations. Like it's good to talk about your past experience, but we also want to hear a little bit about tunneling. But yeah, please don't get alarmed by that first bullet point. We welcome all applicants from different backgrounds. Second, we strongly request that you develop a spike. So like we might read 50 different applications, each of them have 3 essays, and it can kind of all blend together. But you might want to think about what makes you stand apart from the other applicants. What's going to make us remember your application when we go back and make the final decisions? We also encourage you to be creative. So sometimes some of the essays can turn into laundry lists. So someone might say like, I did this internship and then I did this, and that's nice. But like, how does that tie into like a cohesive story? How can you make it really memorable and interesting? And also keep in mind, we have your resume. So what can you tell us that's not on there? That's what you really should be using the essays for. And then as for generative AI, this is more of a recent issue, but we receive a lot of generic responses. So they'll use buzzwords like innovative, sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. And that's okay, but like we can slowly start to tell like if someone's using generative AI, but it would be naive to say like, don't use it at all, because for some non-native English speakers, it might be helpful for figuring out grammar or phrasing or other things like that. I can see Tori might want to say something, so
Yep,
I'll let
I
Tori
totally
talk.
agree, Jack, that AI is really helpful for getting your thoughts out and helping maybe form some of the basis of your essays, but don't let it write the whole application for you. We want to hear from you. We want to know what your passions are, not what AI thinks we want to read. So, um, as Jack said, use it cautiously. Um, and if we see some uh, very superlative words, like he said, innovative. Um, it we can tell. So do your best to use it sparingly.
Yeah, thanks, Tori. Yeah, and again, I just want to emphasize, like, please feel free to talk about your background, but again, we're really looking for your genuine passion for tunneling. So here's a couple strong essay examples. This one was a recent application. And what I personally liked about this, I'll see if I can pull out my laser pointer here. First, they say that they didn't have previous experience with tunneling, and they talked about how they like TBM technology. But what I really liked here was at the end, they tied it back to this analogy of Legos. And I thought that was something really creative that when we went back and read through some of the other essays, this application stood out. I know this person, so I can critique them a little bit. But they developed a spike in AI and machine learning. They talked about that a little bit. So you can see increasingly complex urban environment, and that kind of ties into the need for big data, predicting tunneling-induced ground movements, machine learning AI-based approach. And then here at the end, secret tip, if you're really interested, maybe convey that you're open to industry recruitment opportunities. That's something we look for as well. Just a small note here, this essay in particular is a little laundry list like. So again, we really want that creative element. We enjoy that. I'll turn off my laser pointer. All right, perfect. All right, so here's some quick examples where maybe there's a little bit of room for improvement. So if we're giving you 250 words and you give us one sentence back, that might not be an effective application, right? Like I think the essay prompt here was like, describe your probability for success in tunneling. And if you say, I'm sure I'll be working in the field of tunneling, that doesn't really tell us too much. Another similar example, like I'm currently pursuing a tunneling degree and securing an internship in X or Y city, I feel I would be a good tunnel engineer. We most likely already know that. And also, again, like this is on your resume. This was more general. As a geotechnical engineering student, tunneling is an interesting topic. We know it's an interesting topic to you because you're applying for a tunneling scholarship, right?
And I guess if you go back to that one, Jack, for this one, this is a great first sentence and a half, but we want to know what more do you want to learn? How do you want to contribute? These kinds of things are helpful and what help kind of have that spike that Jack's talking about so that we get to know you more through these essays and you're not just a person with a GPA or on your resume.
Yeah. And on that note, I also want to emphasize like GPA isn't everything. So if you were maybe a weak student academically, there are other ways you can make up for that on your application. It's not the only thing we look for. Another similar example, as an engineer, more so in mining. Don't tell us that. Don't tell us that. Pretend you're a tunnel engineer. Yeah, that would have been a red flag. And then this is a more recent example. So we can tell if you pasted it from ChatGPT if you include the prompt. So they probably asked ChatGPT to rephrase it in under 50 words and decide to keep the prompt in. Don't do that. Tori, do you want to take the tail end of this?
Certainly. And this, I've been looking in the chat here. I've seen we've got some folks joining from all over. And I also see that Everett asks, aside from encouraging students to apply, what else could the UCA Young Members use help with from volunteers? I think this question ties perfectly into our upcoming events and future efforts. So if you have finished your application, and you're wondering, wow, I can't wait until June to attend this conference because I've put together this fantastic application. What can I do in the meantime? Well, next month you could join our UCA General Committee meeting in April. It's also hosted virtually through Zoom. What we've been doing here for the past couple of months is starting off with new member introductions, some brief spotlights, and we provide updates on upcoming events. And we're going to start piloting little project spotlights since many of us in underground construction world support different kinds of projects or have different roles supporting the same project. So if you're looking to kind of meet others in this industry, in this space, that can be a good time to attend, maybe recognize some faces in advance of these conferences. And then for our next Tunnel Vision series, we're hosting this also virtually, but it will be in May. We're going to hear from Luis Avila, our ITA liaison for the Young Members, and he will present to us about the International Tunneling Association, as well as the World Tunnel Congress, and a little bit more about the UCA working groups. So if you'd heard from the beginning of this presentation about some of those working groups, wondering what their origins are and what more topics they cover, the May Tunnel Vision series would be a great opportunity for you to learn more and find ways to see which working groups align with your interests and experience and consider getting involved. And then some of the further opportunities. For many students, some may already be members of our UCA Young Members community, but we're always open to including others. This is a really big industry and a way to stay informed of upcoming events and other activities. One of the best ways to do this is to follow up with the volunteer@sme.org email with questions and interests. We can also share in the chat our volunteer interest form. And essentially, what that can do is you can fill that out. That can help guide you to the different interest groups or working groups. But it can also provide us with your email so that we can add you to our mailing list and be able to reach you better instead of just shouting into the void on LinkedIn. So that would be really helpful. If the information presented here has been of interest to you, that's a great way to do that. And also, sorry, as an aside, I see for those who may not be monitoring the chat, Jack had shared his email address for application-specific questions, and we've also provided the SME email address for scholarships, IT-related questions. Jack, if I'm interpreting that right.
Yep. So like if you have a question about tunneling or like how that might relate to the scholarship program as a whole, I might be able to help answer that. But if your like letter of recommendation is going to come in late, contact the SME email address I have posted there.
And would that email also be helpful if you're having issues with your application?
Yep. That would be helpful as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And our final, I don't know, I believe this is our final slide, but we have our metaphorical UCA Young Members community, but we do also have a community website. This is what's shown on screen here. We can drop the link in the chat if it's not already there. But this is another avenue outside of LinkedIn and some of the mailing lists that we are developing for you to join and be able to see updates and events and discussions on this portal. Is this, I believe that's our final slide, is it not?
Yep, that's it.
The final slide. So let's go back through and see questions we have in the chat. All right. I see Vincent has asked, as an African, am I eligible for the scholarship? Vincent, are you currently in school in Africa, or are you attending a U.S. institution for school? Because I would say, and it's okay if you can't come off mute, I would say um, we tend to provide scholarships to students who are currently enrolled in U.S. institutions. Um, for mostly from the funding standpoint, it's a little bit easier to get students travel expenses. Um, I see. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Um, for the academic scholarship, there are some legal restrictions. So that one, unfortunately, would be a no. But for the attendance, you can submit something. Personally, I'm not too familiar. Like the legal restrictions for the attendance are a little bit different. So you could try and just submit something and see what happens. But it's harder for us, I'll say that, to justify giving it to someone outside the United States sometimes.
And I think also to that end, I don't know if we shared this on the front end of this, but the UCA Young Members support reviewing of the scholarships, but there is also the RETC and UCA executive committees also have individuals who help review these scholarships. So it is not just us. There are others who are more attuned to some of those legal restrictions, just as an aside there.
Yeah, I would always say submit and see what happens. That's my attitude towards things in general.
Agree. Does anyone else have any questions, either in the chat or ones they'd like to ask? Any other things that we haven't discussed, Jack?
I think we've covered the broad spectrum, but I would say good luck to everyone, and hopefully we'll see some of you at RETC.
Agree.
Hey, Victoria. Hey, Jack. This is Everett. Yeah, I'll make sure we push things out again to a bunch of universities through down for that. So I'll copy on all that correspondence. But anybody on the call, I would just really, really encourage you to talk to your professors, talk to your colleagues in college, or even past, colleagues if you're in industry now. Um, but we really, really want to get as many applications for the scholarship that's due in a couple of weeks. But if you're, interested in helping with the UCA Young Members, maybe just try to attend that conference call next month.
Thanks, Everett, which I'm glad you mentioned that because something that we've been working on is further developing some of our programming. Most of the time, we have our general committee meetings as opportunities for people to connect and share a little bit about themselves with others on the call. But these tunnel vision series, like this one and the one that's planned for May, tend to be a little bit more industry oriented or providing insight about UCA. And so, to that end, I would say if you're a student right now, and you have perhaps research that you're passionate about presenting about, or there are elements about tunneling that you'd love to present or hear about, we're always looking for Tunnel Vision series presenters, specifically for the later half of 2025 and also into 2026. Could be a great opportunity for you to present things that you're working on that pertain to the underground construction industry and provide you with a platform to be able to share. So we're looking for ways to spotlight you. So consider that.
Hi, Toria. Thank you for sharing that again. My name is Ritika. I'm from New York City, and I know Jack from the ASC Mentor Program.
Yes, yes.
How are you, Jack?
Doing
But
good.
that's good. I wanted to follow up because since I run the ASC Press chapter at City Tech, I actually applied for the Down for That tour. I submitted the application like a couple months ago, but I didn't hear anything. I even checked with my professor. So I was just wanted to know like if I can just shoot you guys an email to follow up with that. Is that okay?
That might be a question for Everett. Maybe I'm wrong.
And Ritika, is this the Down for That tour that's upcoming for the lot project in April?
I had just submitted like a general request to take my ASC chapter. That's the only reason I just wanted to follow up. Because our faculty advisor is also a geotechnical professor, so he's also very interested.
Yeah, Ritika, where is your school?
We're City Tech, downtown Brooklyn, right across Tandon.
Yeah, I'll work. Yeah, let me work with you. Getting site tours for tunnels is not particularly easy sometimes.
Yeah,
But at a bare minimum, we can get you somebody that comes to the university and speaks to you about a project. I can promise to try to get you a site tour in New York or near New York. But I can't make any guarantees on that. But yeah, just shoot me an email. I'll
sounds
put
good.
it in the chat. And yeah, I'll follow up and get you something at the university at a minimum.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Everett.
Does anyone else have any questions they'd like to ask the group?
No more questions. Thank you for doing this, Jack and Victoria. I know, these things are tough to schedule and things like that. So thank you for doing this. Please, please, please continue to keep doing this. I think it's wonderful that we're doing this, that we're promoting this, and everything. So I'm here to support in any way I can and make this successful.
Thank you, Everett.
Thank you.
And I guess with that, our March Tunnel Vision series, our first of 2025, is concluding.